find them entrancing.
He's told me never to call again.
Then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It is always very painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Thank you. I have already cherished our time together.
As have I.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness is you great credit, Earnest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to hear you read from it.
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's records of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Earnest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on now. I'm quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Earnest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, hopelessly.
I don't think it can be right for you to tell me you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't make much sense, does it?
Cecily, I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you. I love you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you're silly fine! Of course! Why, we have been engaged for the last 3 months!
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Earnest.
Darling! And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or another. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you. The next day I went out and bought this little ring in your name and this bangle with the true lover's knot I promise you to always wear.
Oh, did I give you that? It's very pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you've wonderfully good taste, Earnest. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
My letters? But, my own sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
You need hardly remind me that, Earnest. I remember only too well I was forced to write the letters for you. The 3 you wrote me after I broke off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But, was our engagement ever broken off?
Of course it was. You can see the entry if you like. Today I broke off my engagement with Earnest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why on earth did you break it off? Cecily, I am very much hurt indeed to hear you broke it off, particularly when the weather was so charming.
It would have hardly been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
Oh, what a perfect angel you are, Cecily.
You dear romantic boy. Now is when you kiss me.
Oh, I do hope that was satisfactory.
It was quite identical to your other kisses.
You'll never break off our engagement again, Cecily.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. Besides, is there any question of your name?
Yes, of course.
You must not laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There's something in that name that seems to inspire one with absolute confidence. I pity any poor woman whose husband is not called Earnest.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say that you could not love me if I had some other name?
What name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I can't see why you should object to the name Algernon. It is rather an aristocratic name. Half the chaps who get into bankruptcy court are called Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character. But I feel that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector was just here, I suppose. Is he thoroughly experienced in all the practices of all rites and ceremonials of the church?
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book in his life, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must talk to him at once on a most important christening. I mean, on most important business.
Oh.
It shan't take more than half an hour.
Considering we have been engaged since February the 14th, and I've only met you today for the first time, I think it's rather harsh that you should leave me for such a long period of time as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll call you back in no time.
You see this?